Welcome to the High Risk Payments Playbook, the podcast for partners and merchants operating in complex industries. If you're navigating chargebacks, underwriting challenges, compliance hurdles, reserve or volume limit challenges, and approval roadblocks, you're in the right place. Each week, we break down the realities of high-risk credit card processing, what works, what doesn't, and how to build sustainable payment strategies focused on revenue growth for industries where others struggle. This is where strategy meets execution. Let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode of the High Risk Payments Playbook. We have a very nice topic for you guys today. And today, of course, we have a special guest in the house. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Hi, Renee. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm just excited to start with this new topic for today.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Alrighty. Now, the topic that we have for today, Lisa, is how to become a valuable high-risk payments partner. So what can you tell us? How can we start this conversation today?
Oh, my word. There's a million things I could tell you. Partnerships are my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
Okay, so I personally believe in reciprocity, right? I believe that if you do someone a solid, they will return it to you. It's sort of karma, perhaps. A lot of people would call it karma. So I position partnerships for myself. This is how I do things. So, take that for what it's worth. But I position partnerships where I set up a situation where I can deliver value to a partner and then, give them a demonstration, like an actual, this is really happening demonstration of value, and hope and sort of expect that builds a trusting relationship, right?
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, we partner with people. We don't partner with companies. We partner with human beings. And
Yeah, that's right.
we want to know each other. We want to have a somewhat intimate relationship. Not in any non-professional way, of course. I'm not suggesting that, but
Mhm.
I want my partners to know who I am. I want them to understand how I come at, relationships and what they can expect from me. I want to be clear about what to expect from them and just set, literally a very reasonable expectation from the beginning. So that leads me down the road of partners often have a misconception or two or 50 about what it's like to partner with someone in the payment space. And as someone who has been people's partner in the payment space for 31 years at this point, I think I have a pretty clear understanding of how to adjust some misalignments.
Mhm.
So for instance, when I talk to partners for the first time, if they don't know anything about the industry, they're usually talking to me because the payment space is very interesting to folks who want to make money these days, right?
Sure.
And a lot of people are interested in payments. A lot of SaaS companies embed payments these days, which means they make it a part of their internal process. So like if you want to buy images, for instance, you go to a getty.com and you pay for your images right on their website, right? They want an embedded partner. That's what an embedded partner looks like. They're
Okay.
not a merchant services provider, but they have selected someone to manage that part of the process for them. And it's embedded in their 1, 2, 3, 4 steps to be able to acquire their product. So it's vastly interesting to a lot of people who've never been in this space before. And a lot of folks think that it's, it's payments. It's super easy. Everybody does it. And they're not right. And they're also not wrong. The payment space can be easy if you already have a network of potential partners who will send referrals to you. If you already have a network of business owners that you can have conversations with, right? And I always encourage people who want to partner with someone in payments to be able to lean on their existing networks. And I don't necessarily mean, call your friend Charlie and say, hey, I'd like to do your payment processing, although I'm sure there is a component of that. But call your friend Charlie and say, hey, I'm thinking about reselling payments, where would you suggest I go with that? Like, is your industry, do people have a lot of issues? And, are they often challenged by things like their accounts being shut down or having a lot of chargebacks? Or, like, are you hearing your folks in your industries mention that there are some challenges?
mhm,
And if Charlie says, yeah, a couple of my friends have said, they had a kerfuffle with their merchant account and they didn't get deposits for a few days, or their account got shut down overnight and then they had to panic to find a new one. If something like that happened, then perhaps that's a good place to start your effort and find partners in that space for yourself, right?
mhm, mhm,
Develop your own network. And,
mhm.
there's working hard and there's working smart. And
Sure.
in the beginning, you will work hard,
Mhm,
but if you develop a network, you will end up working smart because, you can make a goodly amount of money in payments if you build your own network and
mhm,
if you have people referring people they know to you or people that they call on. You make a friend in the, gosh, what might somebody sell in the, somebody who sells food to restaurants, right?
mhm, mhm.
They're a terrific referral partner if you want to get into restaurants because they work with them already. And so they already
Yeah,
know
they
the
know
owners.
them, right?
They already
Mhm,
know the players. They sell
mhm.
to them. They're a vendor already.
Sure.
So, if that's your jam and you want to get into hospitality, that's
Mhm,
a great partner.
mhm,
Just like folks, if you want to get into hotels, folks who sell laundry supplies to
mhm,
hotel owners are a fantastic partner, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
if you set up a reasonable expectation for yourself and for your partners, and you just go meet people and you have conversations, it can be very, very easy to make a very nice income in payments. And I think fundamentally that is the working smart of it, is to develop
mhm,
your own network. I
mhm,
think the other sort of key expectation, if you will, is that a lot of people think that they have to know everything there is to know about payments and they have to be an expert and they're not going to be successful until they are,
mhm,
blah, blah, blah. And that, frankly, is just not true. If
mhm,
you choose a payments partner who handles onboarding, who handles the support, if they do all of those things in house, and basically all you have to do is open a conversation, then that's all you have to do, right? Choose
Sure.
a partner that has a good handle on the industries that you want to
Mhm,
work in,
mhm,
that understands those industries and their challenges, and who can speak intelligently to the merchants that you refer to them. That's your ideal partner. And
mhm,
unless you've been in this industry and you can discuss rates and you understand what interchange is and all of those details around the costs
mhm,
and the fees and what have you. And if you do, the world is your oyster, right? You could partner with whomever you want. If you don't, then look for a partner who does that on your behalf. And
mhm,
that would be a better selection for you. So it's setting a reasonable expectation for yourself and
mhm.
looking for a partner who can fill in the gaps where maybe you aren't strong.
Okay. Now we talked about expectations. We talked about like what can you expect pretty much, right, for this process. Now I wanted to ask you, for me as a partner, what will be the requirements that I need to have as a partner to be a good partner and to start a healthy and good partnership?
Requirements. I guess a requirement is that you are interested
Hmm.
in having conversations about merchant services, that
Sure.
you are out in the world meeting with people
Hmm.
and behaving in a way that supports people trusting you. Because the
Hmm.
one key thing about merchant services that I think frankly a lot of people forget is
Hmm.
that merchant processors, if you will, are moving a business's money.
Yeah,
Their
that's right.
doors wouldn't be open if they didn't have a reliable and valuable partner in that
Yeah,
space.
credibility,
And
right?
so that's part of why you want to make sure you select the right partner for you, but
Hmm.
also the right partner for your merchants.
Hmm.
And they have to be trustworthy. They have to have a solid reputation. They have to always do the right thing for the merchant. And if you don't feel like they do those things, they're not a good fit for you.
Okay.
it is critical when you send a referral that the processor that you choose as your partner, the merchants feel confident in,
Mhm.
and they feel like, they're honest and they're straightforward, and they're getting them the best terms that they can for their relationship, especially in the high risk space. Terms are
Mhm.
very important. And it is critical to a merchant that those things be in place,
Mhm.
because the doors of their business remaining open rely on it. And it
Mhm.
isn't just a vendor situation where you could change your mind and go with somebody else and it's not a huge deal, right? Like back to our restaurant example. If
Mhm.
you're with one supplier and you don't like the quality of their product, you find another one, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
It is not so easy with merchant services, because if you choose a bad provider, that could mean your business not having cash flow. It could mean an interruption in your revenue. It could mean losing a lot of sales. So it could mean a detriment to your year end numbers. It has a multitude of impacts. And so that's a fundamental difference, and something that really solid partner in the to a payment processor needs to understand, that you have to feel really, really good about who you choose, because they're all not built the same. And putting merchants first is absolutely critical. Having a support team that understands how to help merchants with whatever their needs may be is absolutely critical, right? So, some of those key factors are far different than choosing um, a restaurant to go to, right?
Yeah,
Not that
absolutely.
we all don't have our favorite restaurants, but
Mhm.
being a
Sure.
merchant services processor is very different than
Mhm.
going somewhere for a burger.
Yeah, absolutely is. Now we already discussed a little bit about, well, actually a lot about the requirements, the expectations for me as a partner. Now, what about me as a partner? How can I make sure that I'm actually reaching out to the high risk merchants, and how can I make sure that I'm actually doing the best I can on my end to send it to, my partnerships, and make sure that this merchant receive the well, let's say the support, and also all the guidelines and help, on high risk
Sure.
industry.
So the first step is to know what a high risk industry is, or why
Hmm.
a business would be considered high risk. And I
Hmm.
know we've talked about this before, but I'll just do a quick recap. There are certain industries or verticals, if you will, that are just fundamentally high risk because the card brands, the Visa, MasterCards of the world say so. And
Hmm.
it's industries like travel and adult and CBD and cannabis and nutraceuticals and subscription based businesses or membership based businesses like a
Hmm.
gymnasium. It is a business that has a significant period of time between pays for a product, much like a furniture store, for example, is high
Hmm.
risk, because you pay for a sofa today, but you may not get it for a couple of months, right? It is a high average ticket amount. Average ticket means your
Hmm.
average sale, your average transaction amount. So
Hmm.
anything on average over $1,000 is considered high risk by the card brands. Um, so there's a good handful of ways that a merchant might be considered high risk. An e-com business is considered high risk because the customer is not in front of them hard, right?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of factors that play into that we've touched on before. We don't have to circle back on now. But understanding what the high risk verticals are is step one. And
Hmm.
then thinking through who else works in those spaces, right? If you want to reach travel agents, for example, or
Hmm.
tourism companies, maybe find a partner who works in hotels, so like a
Hmm.
concierge who recommends events and that kind of thing to their clientele.
Hmm.
Maybe they get asked all the time, well, tell me about like an excursion company. What's fun to do
Yeah.
in your city, right?
Hmm.
I boarded recently a tour excursion company that runs helicopter tours around the New York metro area. And so it
Hmm.
would be very likely that a hotel concierge would want to know about that service, and also would be somebody who would recommend that service. So
Sure.
they're going to likely know the owners of that business or the management of that business so that they can say, with some authority, this is a fantastic, we've heard really good feedback about this experience. It might be something you'd like to do,
Hmm.
hotel guest.
Hmm.
So, think about who operates in that space or I guess in those spaces, and who would make
Hmm.
a good partner for you. Who would know the people that you want to know, the business owners that you want to be able to refer, and then reach
Hmm.
out to them and say, look, I'm a merchant services person. We operate in the high risk space. I'd like to get to know some of these businesses. Who do you
Hmm.
happen to know in that industry?
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. And then, like you mentioned earlier, right? I mean, as a partner, it's not that I need to be an expert in this, and then that will be part of me look for the right partnership so I can get all this information. And then I can make sure that whenever I'm looking for merchants and businesses, I do have that support, and work, like you mentioned, create this network and work as a team. So at the end, it is actually a teamwork. Now, for me as a partner, how can I make sure that I can work or I can find what makes a good processor in the high risk space? How can I make sure that I can, look for the right one?
Yeah. You want a processor that has history in high risk industries,
Hmm.
that understands the challenges faced by those merchants,
Hmm.
that understands how to discuss terms with the underwriting banks or
Hmm.
banker banks, because of course merchants want the best terms, right? So
Absolutely,
you
yes.
want someone experienced in that way. You want to absolutely be sure that that particular processing port can
Yeah.
be reached. I know everybody laughs at me when I say that, but
Yeah, but
but
that's
it's
true. Yeah,
totally it's
you're right.
totally true. We are talking to people about their revenue, right? About their
Hmm.
cash flow. You don't want AI answering your call and saying, "Hey, Mr. Merchant, tell me, why you're calling in. What's your problem today?" And then you
Yeah.
say, "Well, I don't understand why I got XYZ deposit. It doesn't match my settlement from yesterday. I think there's a problem." And then
Hmm.
AI says, "Yeah, that problem happens all the time. Please hold and, we'll find somebody for you." And then literally you just sit there, right? For
Yeah.
hours because AI doesn't know how to handle that.
Of
So
course.
it is super important that your processor have live human beings who answer the call and can help you with support, who are experienced, who speak your language, who can be a good intermediary, who
Hmm.
understand, who can translate what you're saying to them about what your challenge is, and who can communicate with the right people to get
Hmm.
to a resolution in a timely manner, right? Because
Yeah.
again, we're moving people's money. A merchant doesn't want to wait 3 days or 5 days or weeks, as it might be with an aggregator, to get
Yeah.
an answer to their challenge. Like it needs to be handled immediately. They need
Yeah.
to
You're
be
right.
priority.
Like
So
we always say, right? Times kill deals.
time does kill. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. 100% it does. And it kills relationships too, more
Hmm.
than just getting business. You could
Yeah.
have a merchant, but if you're not treating them well and you're not taking care of their challenge properly and in a timely manner, then, they're not going to stick around. And
Yeah.
would you blame them? Right. Like
Of course. I'm gonna
i-
look just for another option.
Right. When you call someone for support, you want someone to help you. And,
Hmm.
you know, moving your money and cash flow, it should be like one of the biggest priorities for a company out there with support. So,
Sure.
a good partner looks for that. They ask questions
Hmm.
about that processor's support. Are they human beings? How long
Hmm.
have those folks been in the industry? How many support members do you have?
Hmm.
What's your average wait time? How long does a merchant wait on the
Yeah.
phone before their call's picked up? All of those things are important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And also, I mean, if they also provide support, like bilingual support too, that's important, or how they provide support to your merchants.
Yeah, of course it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. You're absolutely right.
Now, we talked about already requirements, expectations, and let's go ahead and talk about a little bit about the expectations for me as a partner, and what are the benefits that I can get if I partnership and do business this way.
Sure. Well, the first and the one that everybody wants to know about are residuals, right? How they get paid. And you want to make sure that you have with whatever processor you choose, you want a schedule A, which is where the rev share is going to be housed in your agreement. You want a schedule A that doesn't, nickel and dime. Like they're not going to take basis points for this and basis points for that and nickels
Hmm.
here and dimes there and dollars here and dollars there. You want a very simple schedule A where you are getting as much of the rev share as is reasonably possible.
Hmm.
And it should be for the life of the account. I've seen relationships all over the map where, some processors only pay you for the first year, some pay you more for the first couple of months, and then it drops off substantially after that.
Hmm.
You want a relationship that pays you for the life of that merchant account, right? That's really an
Hmm.
ideal situation because it takes a couple months for you to start building residuals. But, after the first year, you should be at a nice, healthy, several $1,000s a month of income, even with a reasonable amount of referrals. If you're killing it on referrals,
Hmm.
you could get to 10, 12K a month, in the first year. That's really reasonable.
Okay.
Talk to before you sign an agreement, before you sign an agreement, have a discussion with, a handful of processors, ask about their revenue share and how it's structured and, what the schedule A looks like. Make sure to ask about the duration of time that you're paid from that partner. Do you have to continue to send referrals to get paid? I've seen
Hmm.
some agreements where if you stop sending referrals, you don't get paid on anything anymore, right?
Hmm.
That's not cool. That's not fair.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, you're just
so,
working for nothing, huh?
that's right. So before you sign anything, make sure you understand the agreement, make sure you feel good about it and do your best to, look at a few of them so you know what benefits you and what's equitable.
Okay. Now, on your experience, Lisa, what would be an advice that you can give to partners that are listening to this episode right now and that they are actually getting this interest in becoming a partner? What would be your advice to the audience?
Goodness, boy, I could go in a million different directions with that. I would say top of mind,
Hmm.
do your research, right?
Hmm.
Look at what other people say about those processors as partners. Listen to that feedback. Follow your gut. Ask a lot of questions. Don't jump to an agreement, right? Make
Hmm.
sure you know who you're doing business with. Make sure you
Hmm.
feel like they are ethical and trustworthy. If they play games with you, they're likely going to play games with merchants, and that would be a disastrous situation. So, if they come very forward and they're very open and willing to answer all of your questions and spend time with you, maybe even train you, right?
Hmm.
Because some people come into this industry not knowing anything. And so,
Hmm.
you want to be able to speak intelligently about a merchant services product. So if they're not willing to train you, how are you going to get that, knowledge, that information to feel confident to have a
Sure.
conversation, even a preliminary conversation?
Hmm.
So what does their training look like? And you know what, Renee, this has come to me recently. There are some folks out there, some merchant services uh,
Hmm.
processors that expect to be paid by
Hmm.
their partners to be trained, which I swear to you is one of the most absurd things I have ever heard. Do not listen to me. Do not pay anyone in the merchant services space to train you how to talk about their product.
Hmm.
Why would you pay even a dollar to make money for that company? Right? That
Yeah.
makes
Yeah, you're right.
absolutely no sense to me. Do not do that. If you don't listen to another thing I say, do not pay anybody to
Hmm.
train you to sell their product ever. That's that is above and beyond any piece of advice I could give anybody.
Absolutely.
They
And that
should
could be
want to
even considered a red flag, right? I mean, if you
for
if you
sure.
have this type of a scenario, that's a red flag right there.
Percent. They should wanna invite you into their business family. They should
Hmm.
wanna support you in any way they can support you. They would
Hmm.
wanna give you marketing materials. They would want to help you network. They would want to be able to provide resources so that you can provide value to your merchant referees, right? And
Hmm.
if they're not able or willing to do those things, move on. Move on.
Yeah.
There's an almost infinite number of potential merchant services partners. Find the right fit for you as an ethical salesperson.
Wow. Yeah. That was that was very important, and this information, I'm glad that we are sharing this information now, and you guys as well can listen to this and just write it down. Write it down whenever you have this type of scenarios. You already know what to do now. So Lisa, once again, I really want to thank you for another episode. Thank you for all the information that you have shared, and then to you guys as well. It was a big pleasure to be here on this episode, and we hope that this information it is going to be helpful to you. Well, if you have any questions and doubts, please let us know, and then we can definitely go ahead and answer those questions on the next episode. So, thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Renee. Always a
Thank you.
pleasure to talk about partnerships. My favorite thing.
Absolutely, and also thank you guys, and see you to the next
Okay.
episode.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the High Risk Payments Playbook. If this episode brought you value, share it with a partner or a merchant who operates in a high risk industry. For more insights and resources, please visit us at zenti.com. That's ZENTI.com. Until next time, operate with efficiency, process smarter, and stay ahead of risk.